What's up, everybody? Ryan Thomas live on the Thomas Take Sports Podcast. Once again, bring you another edition of the Thomas Take. And I'm very excited to not only crack open a Arizona iced tea per usual in Arnie, but we're going to get a little bit of a product placement, as I like to call it, on the show. So let me just pour this in here. Got to have a beverage to start the show. Unfortunately, this one is not mixed. But, why not start it off with a little bit of a Thomas Take mug situation? Or you can roll to the other side here and see that right there, baby. You see what that is? It's the Thomas Take One Buffalo logo. Very excited to start off with these mugs. I personally like the other side better because it's the logo that T Frizzle designed. That obviously putting it on a mug, I think makes things pretty fun. I've been waiting to do that a long time. So here I am back again on the podcast and wanted to talk about a situation that I think definitely needs some room for discussion. And obviously I got an older Sabres jacket on. I love bringing this logo back or attempting to bring this logo back in some form or fashion. Jason Botteril, the Buffalo Sabres general manager today, held a press conference, end of season press conference, in terms of what could be next for the Buffalo Sabres. He hinted at quite a few things. He threw out some interesting quotations saying that everything will be considered heading into the 2018 offseason, even changing up the core grouping of the Buffalo Sabres, which would obviously consist of Kyle Okposo, Ryan O'Reilly. I think obviously at this point, Jack Eichel would remain untouchable in this instance with this team. Jack Eichel would remain extremely untouchable due to the fact that Jack Eichel's the franchise guy. The fact that the Sabres, had such a bad season, and Jason Botterill sat there in front of the media and gave an honest, clear-cut take as far as what he liked this season. There wasn't much to like this season. There wasn't a lot to really base anything off of this season. I didn't really think there were many positives involved in this season. But to say the least, I did think that he handled it very well. He handled the positives and negatives that the season offered very well. And what I mean by that is the positives in the situation that he talked about were the facts that, we have a very, very good young core of players, the Eichels, the Middlestats, the Nylanders, all those guys being a part of this team. I think definitely generated some interest, to say the least, of Sabres fans. Sabres fans were able to really look at the situation and say, hey, there is some positives in this season. Very, very little positives in this season, but positives nonetheless that I think Sabres fans can gravitate to and carry over to next year. I understand just as well as anybody that there are some dynamics of this season that were so abysmal, so frustrating, so somewhat disgusting in terms of the effort or lack thereof from some Sabres players. I talked about that specifically with Ryan O'Reilly. I talked about it with Kyle Okposo in previous episodes. And I really think that there's a lot to that. And the reason why I think there's a lot to that is just because history throughout this season somewhat repeated itself with their performances. We saw Ryan O'Reilly kind of dog it. We saw Kyle Okposo not have his best days in the crease there, time and time again. And we also saw not Robin Leonard, Jack Eichel have a lot of frustrations with the situation at the KeyBank Center this season. The effort was talked about a lot. The effort in practice specifically was talked about a lot. It was talked about as, hey, this team is not really making the strides, not really making the improvements that the team needs to make. And that's very frustrating for a guy like me because I've wanted to see the Sabres get better, and to see the Sabres have their plight in the '05, '06, '07 seasons, and then just to completely dismantle their team, that creates a lot of reason and a lot of frustration as to why the Sabres are in the position that they're in. And I really think that has boiled over, maybe even more than once, with this organization. Now, the headline of the show, obviously, is Jason Botterill was angry at the year-end presser. And the reason why I made that the headline of tonight's show is due in large part to the fact that previous Sabres GMs seem to be frustrated with the losing. They seem to not really care about the losing as much as you would like them to be caring about it. But Jason Botterill, I thought, showed sincere anger and realistic anger at a pretty crappy situation. And Botterill showed to me that he knows what is next for this team. He knows what this team needs to have in order to become a better organization, and that is what is important. That is what makes the good organizations the great ones, or the bad organizations the good ones, I should say. The organizations that make the changes, make the switches to realize what switches actually, what changes actually need to be made. I'm pressing on the keys here with the mic, so just excuse me. Not used to this just yet. Um, and the switches that I think need to be made are the fact that Phil Housley, it's a positive to me that Phil Housley is staying on. It's a very positive sign to me that Jason Botterill said, yes, Phil Housley is staying. That to me is going to be a huge benefit to the Buffalo Sabres, because the last thing I believe that they need right now is a coaching change, a change in which would be highly premature, and a change in which the style of play would change. Phil Housley wants this fast-paced defensive style in which that the Sabres realistically have players that they can build around in that scheme, in that system. Guys like Middlestat, guys like Jack Eichel, guys like Rasmus Ristolainen. And although they showed, time at times, every player on this team, I can't say every player on this team didn't show struggle. There were times of struggle throughout this season from every which way. It wasn't just, Rasmus Ristolainen. It wasn't just Ryan O'Reilly. It was each and every player. There's no one that can be singled out in that. And it's a very frustrating situation for everyone involved. Changing the situation, changing the coaching staff, changing the players. I think there's more credence to that issue, due in large part to the fact that the players on this team feel as if they are at a point where they don't want to lose anymore. They don't want to deal with these frustrations. They don't want to go through the ups and downs of more so the downs of a season, downs that I think can be highly avoided if putting the right players in place and not overpaying the wrong players just to get to the cap. There's so much dead weight on this team. Dead weight like Josh Georges, dead weight like Zach Bogosian, guys that continuously get hurt, guys that can't last the full 82 games. Not that many can, but guys that might not even be able to make 50 games, that have had their injury issues. The Sabres need to move on from those guys. They have to turn the page from guys like that. But the problem with that is that these players are hard to move. Teams are not looking to take on players that have the issues that the Bogosians and the Josh Georgeses have. The one encouraging sign, outside of the fact that the Sabres had some newfound life there with the Middlestat pickup, some newfound momentum, I'd say, just in terms of their energy level. One other dynamic of this that's pretty solid is the fact that the Rochester Americans have had the success that they've had this season. So guys like Malone, CJ Smith, there was some successful players on that farm team. They're currently in the playoffs. They're currently trying to make a push for the Calder Cup trophy, and I think that they have a realistic shot at it because the Sabres have put so much into their farm system, into their minor league circles, that they have an above average minor league team and a below average NHL team. So I guess we can say that there is light at the end of the tunnel for the Sabres, that things will eventually get better if we look at it that way. I can say that because I have said that before. And I'm willing to say right here, right now, on the Thomas Take Sports podcast, that when the Sabres get good again, when we get to that point where the Sabres are good again, they are going to take the NHL by storm. They're going to appear out of nowhere. They're going to make it happen beyond belief, and they're gonna really rise up the ranks of the National Hockey League at a quick pace, at a pace that nobody anticipated, in a year where nobody anticipated it, and that year could be in the 2018-2019 season, year two of Phil Housley. Money off the books, players that are let go, seen as cancers to the team, and just a refresh, reinvigorated Buffalo Sabres team is what I think we're going to see in 2018. Continuity is a big word for me in the wide world of sports, as Phil Housley has a realistic shot at obviously returning. So continuity in the head coaching department. Phil Housley, I think, is a good coach. I'm happy to have him here. And Jason Botteril, thank you, man, for showing your anger in this press conference, because not many Bills or Sabres GMs of years past have done that, have really worn their heart on their sleeve, and have been honest with the fans. I'm Ryan Thomas of the Thomas Take Sports podcast. Obviously, we got some new digs here. We got the mic set up. We got the TTSP mugs. I'm very excited to talk about all of it. Talk about all the merchandise and the apparel that is vastly getting sold on teespring.com. Very fantastic stuff. Teespring.com, I got t-shirts, I got long sleeve t-shirts, I got hoodies, I got mugs. Check this out, man. This isn't just fake stuff. This is the real deal. That's the logo here. That's been the logo the last few years. Whoa, almost spilled there. Last few years, and this is obviously the Buffalo logo, that both were designed by yours truly, trademarked, copyrighted, cannot be sold without. And yeah, cheers.